Fallout, New Vegas. Those three little words, when spoken to a fan of RPG games, is likely to be met with a myriad of responses. In my experience, they're all positive ones at that. As someone who almost exclusively plays RPG games, a lot of people I meet and interact with tend to also play a lot of RPG games, and there are very few in my life that have garnered such esteem, prestige, and truthfully, a semi-mythical reputation as Fallout New Vegas. I have been playing a lot of Starfield recently, and let me stop you right there before you write an angry comment condemning me for naming these two games in the same sentence. But playing Starfield lately has made me a bit nostalgic. Something about the aesthetic and feel of the Freestar Collective, primarily Aquila City and Neon, it's gotten me thinking about Fallout New Vegas. Something about Aquila reminded me of Good Springs, Prim, and the Mojave Outpost, and the bright lights of Neon reminded me of the New Vegas Strip and Freeside. I don't exactly know why it stirred these feelings in me, but I had an overwhelming urge to return to the Mojave Wasteland and find out exactly what it is that I, and so many others, loved about this game. While I can never play this game for the first time again, it has been a few years since I dove into it, so join me as I replay this gem and find out why I love Fallout New Vegas.
War. War never changes.
Fallout, as most of us know it here in the modern age, spawned from Fallout 3, which itself came around due to Bethesda purchasing the rights when Interplay went bankrupt in 2004. Based on my research, the original agreement was for Bethesda to make Fallout 3 and possibly 2 sequels, but due to financial stress, Interplay sold the entire Fallout IP to Bethesda in 2007. As a result, on October 28, 2008, Fallout 3 was released to critical acclaim. This game pretty much took up my entire life when I was a freshman in high school. I played this game at every opportunity I had and reveled in its world, fighting super mutants, feral ghouls, exploring DC and the Capital Wasteland, and learning about the universe in which this series took place. As a longtime Elder Scrolls fan, starting with Morrowind in 2004 and later Oblivion in 2006, this was a game that felt familiar mechanically and yet so very different from anything I had ever played before. The only real gripe I had at the time was the lack of paths in the story. While sure you had some evil karma options for your character like blowing up Megaton or helping Mr. Crowley, I felt more often than not the main story kind of railroaded you into making morally good choices. While I generally tend to play good characters in games, that didn't actually affect my gameplay style. It did take away a lot of extra replayability I feel it could have had with an Enclave storyline or even a third power in the Capitol vying for Project Purity. But this isn't a Fallout 3 video. This is a Fallout New Vegas video, so let me get back on track. For a little context here, let's start with my initial discovery of this game. Now let's fast forward a little bit to 2010. I'm a sophomore in high school now. At this time in my life, I did not have internet. The only real access to the internet I had was at school or leeching off my neighbor's Wi-Fi via my PSP. Primarily in my computer class, where instead of doing my homework, I was reading UESP and learning Elder Scrolls lore to discuss with my brother Brian on the phone, or going to the Fallout website to look at screenshots, pictures, and read the little short stories that were on the website. From what I could see, those stories are no longer there, but if anyone knows what I'm talking about, please let me know in the comments. They were really special to me at the time, and I'd like to know how many more of you enjoyed them as well. One day, seemingly no different to any other, I'm sitting in class, my teacher's giving his lecture, and one of my best friends, Angel, who I wasn't really friends with at the time, was sitting next to me and intently listening to the lecture like the great student he was. And there I am, sitting on the computer, scrolling through UESP articles and looking for a conversation topic for my upcoming phone call with my brother. I decided to look at the Fallout site and reread those same short stories I had read a million times before. But this time I was greeted with something I did not expect. The normal drab tans, grays, and greens of the Fallout 3 banners and color scheme on the site were gone. In its place were blacks, reds, and vibrant neon colors. Then I saw it. A figure with a gas mask and helmet combo, a big western revolver, glowing red eyes, and in the background, a singular tower. the Lucky 38. At the time, I didn't know what this was. I thought it was the Seattle Space Needle, and my smooth brain at the time couldn't comprehend that what I was seeing was actually an original structure created for the Fallout universe. Now, it didn't take long for me to begin consuming whatever media and information I could about this game, which was very little. I got on the internet train late, despite being so young at the time, so researching games and finding information was very difficult for me. I just didn't know much about the internet or how it worked or how to properly look things up. I was too nervous to click most links on Google because I was terrified of viruses. I know this may seem silly now, but at the time, between my PSP and my school computer, I was trying to play it safe as I could so I didn't lose what little, and I mean very little, access to the internet I had. For reference as well, my computer class was my first class of the day, so I couldn't watch videos in there for fear of drawing attention to myself, so I had to wait until lunch to go to the computer lab and do some research on this game, meaning I had to spend my entire morning in agony wondering who that figure was and what this Fallout New Vegas thing was. An expansion, a new game? I did not know, and it was killing me to find out. That said, I did manage to survive until lunch, against all odds, and made it to the computer lab. I came across a YouTube video posted by IGN, the Fallout New Vegas teaser trailer. Opening with a robot picking up sand and revealing that he's clearing the sand off of a dead person half buried in the earth. Then, as the trailer reaches its end, you see a flapping trench coat in the wind, a flag, and that same figure I saw earlier in my day with the glowing red eyes. More than that, I saw a vibrant city on the horizon of a barren landscape enticing me forward. A horizon that promised yet more adventure in this post-apocalypse I had come to love. A horizon that spoke of dangers and darkness yet to be explored. A horizon that told of new characters to meet and a mysterious figure in the foreground which exuded an aura of danger that bade me come test it. For days, this video was all I had to go on, and my conversations with everyone from that moment were just me, overjoyed and talking about Fallout New Vegas. And one day in my history class, a friend of mine named Michael had asked me if I'd seen the E3 trailer of it, which I hadn't, but he showed me the video to look up, so of course I got home, waited all night dreaming of what this video may entail, then slogging through my morning at school just waiting for lunch. Again, I managed to survive my morning enough to see this video, and I was blown away. While I won't break down the trailer frame by frame, I will point out some of the things that really stood out to me. Seeing a scoped laser rifle, a gray super mutant appearing out of thin air, the New Vegas Strip powering down, and of course a large explosion at the end. But even more than all of that, I saw a glimpse of the factions. I saw a player character in Legion armor, NCR armor, and an armored vault suit. While I knew nothing of the NCR or Caesar's Legion at the time, and I knew even less of Mr. House and the families that control New Vegas, that scene told me that I would have something Fallout 3 never really offered me: branching paths and multiple factions to join. At this point, I had thrown caution to the wind. I was clicking every article and reading every bit of lore and game information I could find. I was dining on the finest news and engorging myself on the hopes and dreams promised by the screenshots and gameplay I was seeing. I even managed to find clips of footage from G4 on my Comcast On Demand. At least I think it was from that source. I know it was Comcast On Demand, and I just watched the Battle for Nelson, where you can join up with the NCR troopers and assault the Legion encampment there. I remember learning that quest had a Legion path where you assault the NCR camp instead, Forlorn Hope, and that confirmed my suspicions from the trailer. This game would have multiple paths, as well as minor factions that could impact the story as well. This reminded me of Morrowind's major and minor faction system in all the right ways, and it took me back to being a little kid in 2004, taking my first steps in the world of Tamriel by way of the island of Vardenfell, and it sent my mind spinning.
Without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own.
Now, at the time of recording and playing this game, it has actually been, at least for me, a long time since I sat down and did a run of Fallout New Vegas. To put it in perspective, I'm not a guy who really branches out and plays a ton of new games. I mean, I do, but I generally stick to a rotation of a few games that I play over and over, beating one, moving on to the next. And while it does happen, it just doesn't happen often that a new game is added to my rotation. Now this may sound like sacrilege, but after 12 years of playing New Vegas, I was getting bored. I was just plain getting bored. I had played each storyline I don't know how many times and done every side quest, DLC, unmarked quest, faction quest, both major and minor, made alliances, been a strong-arm brute, gone at it alone, made friends, made enemies, shot, stabbed, and vaporized my way across the Mojave Wasteland more times than I can count, and I just couldn't justify pouring another 100+ hours into the game. Part of this I blame on COVID. Due to lockdowns, I wasn't working as much, so with shorter work days and sometimes non-existent work days, I had a lot of time to game. I revisited all the games in my rotation, from Dragon Age to the Mass Effect series, all of our beloved Elder Scrolls games, Total War Warhammer 2 at the time, Fallout 3 and 4, and of course, New Vegas. The game I, and so many others, consider the cream of the Fallout crop. Played it, beat it, did another rotation of games, and I just couldn't find the energy to play New Vegas again, nor the desire. So I didn't want to burn myself out of the game and begin to resent it, so I took a break. And now 2 years later, I'm back with a fresh enthusiasm to play.
You are a courier, hired by the Mojave Express to deliver a package to the New Vegas Strip.
Taking those first few steps out of Doc Mitchell's house and into Good Springs felt a lot like a homecoming. The Mojave Wasteland was a place of comfort for me as a teenager, a place to explore, a place to have fun, and a place to live out a life of adventure with complex characters, dark humor, scary mutants, and a wacky 50s Vegas charm, and it was uncompromisingly Fallout. Now, this is my first time playing this game on PC, so if in any of this footage you see me missing easy shots or just general janky gameplay, that's just me trying to break 12 years of Xbox controls in favor of a keyboard and mouse. That aside, I decided this run would be my classic run. As vanilla and bland as it may be, I enjoy playing an NCR character. I like getting myself some Ranger armor, traveling with Boone, and hunting anyone wearing Legion Crimson. I mean, the NCR is the most stable faction and government in the Wasteland. Nothing bad's gonna happen to them. It's not like anyone will detonate a nuke in Shady Sands or something like that and totally stress me out about the canon of the game, right? Right? Now, moving past that, after a brief tutorial where I hunted geckos with sunny smiles, I found myself embroiled in a conflict surrounding the town of Good Springs, between the locals who were hiding a caravaner named Ringo from the Powder Gangers, and nearly instantly, it hit me again. I love this game. Right off the cuff, you are making a lasting decision. Is it the most important in the grand scheme of the Mojave? No. But it is important to the people here. You have a chance to totally ruin or exterminate their way of life and help a ruthless group of escaped convicts take over their town. I am choosing the morally good playthrough, so I'm choosing to help them. It required a lot of talking with the townsfolk and using all the skills I had at my disposal, sometimes successfully and other times not so much. But I was able to rally a militia to protect Ringo and send the gangers a message. Good Springs won't back down. Naturally, after looting the dead and selling their gear and taking a quick nap, I moved on. I said goodbye to Good Springs and trudged forward, further into the Mojave Wasteland. Now, I won't bore you by rehearsing every choice I made in this game, so let's move on.
Guess who's waking up over here?
Time to cash out.
Like I alluded to in our last section, the story of New Vegas is, no pun intended, a wild card of adventure. It comes out of left field and hits you with incredible moment after incredible moment. From its stellar opening sequence to the first steps of the character into the wider world of the Mojave, after settling issues with Good Springs, you wander forward into the town of Prim. And it seems like each step you take on the path to finding who originally tried to kill you in the beginning of the game raises the stakes. But each area is a microcosm of the greater conflicts of the Mojave. It's a story between three great powers rising in the wasteland of the American Southwest. One being Mr. House, a pre-war captain of industry, and now CEO and sole proprietor of the New Vegas Strip. Another being Caesar's Legion, a totalitarian nation of slavers that occupies areas in Colorado, Arizona, and now parts of Nevada, where they're living out the male fantasy of resurrecting Rome. And last but not least is the New California Republic, or the NCR, a nation dedicated to the values of the old world. Government, rule of law, and apparently their manifest destiny to push locals off their land and claim the resources. These three major powers are locked in a struggle for two things in particular: Hoover Dam and the city of New Vegas itself. Mr. House wants to maintain the sovereignty of Vegas, the NCR wants to grow their land, resources, and their taxpayer base, and the Legion wants the resources and to enslave the population in hopes of funding further conquest westward, into California proper. Before the story begins, a few years prior the NCR had won the first battle of Hoover Dam. But it wasn't a great and triumphant victory. It was the kind of victory that nobody is particularly thrilled with. Essentially, they won the battle, but not by enough to win the war. The Legion gave them one hell of a shiner, and they're winding up another right hook. That's where you come in. You are a courier, hired by a company known as the Mojave Express to deliver a package to the New Vegas Strip. An oversized platinum poker chip, and in the midst of your delivery, Matthew Perry decides to ambush you and kill you with the help of the Great Khans, a down-on-their-luck tribe of raiders and chem dealers making their home in the Mojave Wasteland. From the moment you wake up, you will explore and learn more of these factions, both great and small, that occupy the Mojave. And you have the ability, for better or worse, to engage with these factions as much or as little as you see fit, and all of your choices will have consequences, not only for those factions, but all of the people occupying this portion of the wasteland. There are so many branching paths and stories to explore, each bursting at the seams with exciting characters, quality writing, humor, and incredibly human stories. I won't waste your time giving a summary of the entire story because it branches off into so many directions. Maybe one day I'll make a video on that, but not today. Now, for this part, I want to focus specifically on the city of New Vegas, because each of New Vegas's communities are distinctly different and represent the diversity of the Mojave Wasteland pretty well. You may not think so thinking about it initially, but hear me out. They are North Vegas, West Side, East Vegas, South Vegas, the Sewers, Freeside, and the Strip. I know that's a lot of that sounds like hip-hop beef, but hear me out, please. North Vegas is home of rugged and independent people who thrive on trade and have a surprisingly strong sense of justice. But not law and order NCR justice with courts and trial. This is definitely street justice. Crandon and Jules are more the types to kick your teeth in rather than ask what the issue is. West Side is a mix of urban and agrarian communities. The community of West Side is home to outcasts from other parts of Vegas and the Mojave who have banded together and formed a walled-off settlement where everyone pitches in to work at the West Side Co-op. The co-op is a community farm in the city that they use to feed themselves and trade. One interesting thing about West Side is they have their own civilian militia. They may not be the best equipped or trained, but that's what Mean Son of a Bitch is for. A local super mutant remnant of the Master's Army who patrols and keeps a watch out for the fiends. West Side is also home to The Thorn, an underground arena where people gamble caps or their lives fighting different threats across the wasteland. Red Lucy, the proprietor, has her own wasteland beasts in captivity that she releases for the pleasure of roaring crowds. She also makes enough to employ a sizable force of guards, so West Side is probably one of the safer communities in New Vegas. East Vegas is an agrarian, or at least suburban desert community that's home to two distinct types of people. Fierce and independent locals who resent the NCR for moving in on their land and trying to annex them, and on the opposing side is an NCR sharecropping community with farmers from California who've come to grow food for the troops and make money, as well as experience the splendor of New Vegas. In this area, there's also a refugee facility that's home to squatters and other people fleeing the war or down on their luck. South Vegas is Fiend territory. The Fiends are a massive, vicious, chem-addled, and brutal band of raiders operating out of Vault 3 in the South Vegas ruins. They are one of the better fleshed out raider groups in the Fallout universe, in my opinion, and I'm not discrediting the Khans, New Khans, Great Khans, Vipers, or Jackals. Now, they get their chems from the Great Khans and they engage in the slave trade, common banditry and raiding, and even torture. They have 4 leaders: Motor Runner, Driver Nephi, Violet, and Cook. Watch out for Cook if you find yourself wandering too far. The sewers of New Vegas are a bit of an anomaly to me. I may have missed or forgotten some lore here, but people live in the sewers. NPCs called New Vegas residents who have unique dialogue about living in the sewers sucking, but being better than living under the boot of the NCR. They still have normal concerns like any Wastelander, finding food, water, and dealing with fiends trying to use the sewers to conduct raids and get slaves. Like North and East Vegas, they are a rugged, albeit less organized group of survivors. Freeside has to be my favorite community in the city of New Vegas. They sit right outside the Strip and are more directly in its shadow than any other neighborhood. They have all the charms and vices of the Strip, but also all of the problems of the outer communities. I'm not so sure that Freeside has to deal with raids from the Fiends specifically, but it is an impoverished community. NCR squatters who come to New Vegas to find their fortunes have been left destitute and stuck quarreling with locals who don't want them there. Freeside is split into 2 distinct parts. One side has junkies, drunkies, and squatters milling about trying to rob gamblers and travelers trying to make their way to the Strip, so temporary bodyguards make a good living in this part of town. It's home to the Old Mormon Fort, currently occupied by the followers of the Apocalypse, who appear to be the most steady group in this part of town. The other part of Freeside is home to quite a few distinct characters. The Garrett twins operate the Atomic Wrangler, a casino, distillery, whorehouse, and overall disreputable establishment, but they seem to have a monopoly on all the liquor production and gambling in Freeside. This naturally makes them targets, so they have a sizable force of guards to secure the building and protect their gamblers and workers, as well as their own in-house bounty hunter who hunts down, or puts down, people who owe the Garretts money. Across the street is the Silver Rush Casino, but this is no den of gambling and drinking. This is home to the Van Graffs, a cutthroat merchant family from out west who took over the casino forcefully and have a near monopoly on energy weapons production in the area. They are brutal, cunning, and utterly ruthless to competitors, but they sell some of the most advanced and high-quality weapons around. Just don't upset Jean-Baptiste Cutting. Lastly, on our tour of Freeside and down the street from our 2 groups previously mentioned is the King's School of Impersonation, the beating heart of Freeside, a building where music is always blasting, a pre-war Elvis impersonator school, and now home to a gang known as the Kings. The Kings operate in kind of a weird situation. They're a group of Elvis impersonators that act into a gang and get into tussles and scraps as much as anyone else in New Vegas, but they also work as bodyguards and even act as neighborhood watch. They don't tolerate junkies and killers trying to stick up locals for a few caps. Their tribal roots are no secret, but they've carved out their own piece of New Vegas, and they will defend it as hard as any other community. And finally, the Strip. The Strip is New Vegas. It's exactly where we all wanted to make it to when we first started up the game and saw it on the horizon from the Good Springs Cemetery. The Strip is home to 4 casinos, 3 of which are still active. They are Gomorrah, the Tops, and the Ultra Lux. They are home to the 3 families of the Strip. The Omertas, who operate Gomorrah, are a mafioso-style 50s Vegas crime family who specialize in booze, chems, and prostitution. They push every vice you can imagine. They keep a tight rein on their family business and aren't keen on much other than maintaining their power on the Strip and keeping the business coming back. The chairmen run the Tops Casino. The Tops is a lot like the chairmen themselves, easygoing and relaxing. This hotel is about taking in a show, having a nice meal, and playing some games. The chairmen are the quote-unquote cool guys of the Strip. They are wealthy, powerful, well-dressed, but they aren't as outwardly vicious as the Omertas or nearly as uptight as the White Glove Society, but still they have their own secrets and power plays. The previously mentioned White Glove Society operate the Ultralux, the fanciest and possibly largest casino on the Strip. They are a high-class community trying to cultivate an atmosphere of luxury and high society in their casino. They have the most expensive food, drinks, and the highest limit on winnings you can have before being banned. They pride themselves on being elegant, polite, and expensive. It's a place and group unlike anything else in the Mojave. There is so much detail and life packed into this relatively small area of the map. All these places are distinct, full of life, adventure, story, personality, and history. Just imagine what else is waiting for you out there if you haven't played this game. Prim, Jacobstown, the Prospector's Den, Mojave Outpost, Hidden Valley, Quarry Junction, the Fort, Hoover Dam, Camp McCarran, and so many other amazing locations, absolutely overflowing with characters, humor, and humanity. The characters of New Vegas are an amazing cast. For this section, I'm focusing only on the companions, though. New Vegas has a wonderful array of companions and friends you can make in your travels. You have Arcade Israel Gannon, Craig Boone, Lily Bowen, Raul Alfonso Tejada, Rose of Sharon Cassidy, Veronica Santangelo, Edie the Eyebot, and Rex the Mark III Cyberhound. To keep it spoiler-free as much as I can, I'll give you a brief overview of the companions. Arcade is a doctor who works for the Followers of the Apocalypse in Freeside. He's an idealist. He supports the idea of an independent New Vegas, free of Mr. House, Caesar's Legion, and the NCR. He wants to see the region become a self-sustaining place where people can live and care for one another, not where one of the major powers or personalities has sway over everything. Boone is a former NCR 1st Recon sharpshooter. When you meet him, he's working as a sentry and guard and sniper in Novak. He is stationed inside Dinky the Dinosaur, the town's mascot. Boone takes the night shift and his friend, Manny Vargas, takes the day shift. Boone is troubled by loss, by his past, and he doesn't know who to trust or where to turn. When you recruit him, expect that anyone wearing Legion armor will be in his crosshairs and dead as quickly as he can manage. Lily Bowen is a Nightkin, a special kind of super mutant created by the Master. Before becoming a super mutant, she was kind of a sweet old lady and grandmother. Time has dulled her memories, and now she is on antipsychotic medication. Sadly for Lily, though, she takes it in half doses, because Lily has a horrible alter ego, Leo. Leo is a murderous, dangerous, and utterly destructive entity in Lily's mind, a ravening beast. The sad part of taking the antipsychotics is gradual and long-term memory loss, which is why she takes it in half doses. She doesn't want to forget her beloved grandchildren, Becky and Jimmy. When you meet her, she is confused, with moments of clarity. Lily tends to the Bighorners in Jacobstown, a peaceful community of super mutants living in the mountains at a former resort. Raul is a ghoul, an old ghoul, a pre-war ghoul. Raul is from outside Mexico City. In his youth in Mexico, he was quite the mechanic and gunslinger. Growing up in a rural environment makes one quite handy with a gun. Raul survived the Great War with a lot of traumas and damage. When you meet him, he is a prisoner of Tabitha, an insane nightkin that took over Black Mountain, a hostile community of super mutants that stands perpendicular to the ideals of Jacobstown. Cass, or Rose of Sharon Cassidy, is a caravaner, the lifeblood of the NCR. the people who move goods between cities and settlements. She's also the daughter of John Cassidy from Fallout 2. She is a foul-mouthed, hard-drinking troublemaker. When you encounter Cass, she is trapped at Mojave Outpost waiting for her clearance papers to range north to be processed. Her caravan was destroyed, like so many others. She supports the NCR, but hates the bureaucracy behind it all, and she believes it stops real progress being made. Despite it all, she is capable of being quite a dark and menacing individual when crossed. Veronica is a scribe with the Brotherhood of Steel. While in theory and in her heart she loves the Brotherhood and in many ways agrees with its mission, but she's a bit of a rabble-rouser. This is why you meet her at the 188 trading post. She has been assigned to procurement duty. Considering the Brotherhood is enemies with the NCR, this post is beneficial, but it's also exile. She needs to travel in secret to procure supplies for her brothers and sisters still in the base. She struggles with seeing what the Brotherhood can be. She wants to save them, but in many ways they don't want to be saved. This situation is of great distress to Veronica. Edie is an Eyebot from Adams Air Force Base in the capital Wasteland, developed by the researcher Whitley, an Enclave researcher. Edie has a role to play in the Lonesome Road DLC, but Vanilla Edie also has quite a fun tale you can uncover as time goes on. When you first find Edie in Prim, he is damaged and inoperable. You'll need to find some parts to repair him. And lastly, Rex. Rex is an old cyberdog and companion to the King. When you meet Rex in Freeside, he's dying, his brain is degrading, and he needs a new one, which is a really weird adventure all on its own. Fallout games in the modern day all have a great selection of music on the radio, we all know that, and I hate to say this for fear of drumming up hate comments, but I'm not one for ambient music in games. I have no issue with it, but when I'm playing an open world game like one of these, I keep the environmental music off. Not because it's bad, but because I just prefer to listen to the sounds of the environment in the world. That's personally what gets me immersed. But the New Vegas soundtrack is one I listen to and have listened to pretty much regularly for many years. I listen to it while painting miniatures, I listen to it on long drives. Hell, it's even one of my ambient soundtracks for when I'm editing. While I never listen to it in-game, just that soundtrack alone, I swear it's fantastic, one of my favorite. I don't think anyone is surprised that Enon Zur delivered another set of bangers, but it's the same music you've been hearing this entire video.
From this wasteland they say you are going. We will miss your bright eyes and sweet smile.
Now this script is already 10 pages long as I write this. I swear I could write another 20 if I went into more specific details. If that's something you want to see one day, let me know in the comments below. But I hope this has gone some way into conveying just how much I love this game. Bethesda's release of Fallout 3 showed me what Fallout was. It brought me into the wasteland I love, but it was Fallout New Vegas that showed me what a Fallout game could be. Not just good versus evil, silver armor guys versus black armor guys slugging it out in a black and white conflict, but a gray, muddy, and murky conflict with characters who are equally complex. A place where shady business is conducted in the brightest settings. A place where being good doesn't always mean doing good. A place where an evil act could save your life. A place for fun, adventure, pleasure, and vice. If you find yourself back in the Mojave Wasteland, say hi to all of our friends for me. Ugh, he's ugly. I know. Now this was a bit of a long one. This was a hard video for me to make, and I appreciate you sticking with me all this way. More than just tightly scripted videos like this, I also have another series I do on this channel. It's called Gaming with a Friend, because I know sometimes playing a lot of these single-player RPG games can be lonely or isolating, so you can always put on that series of videos and consider yourself to be gaming with a friend. Currently, I'm playing Starfield on there. But I'm so very grateful that you took time out of your day to watch this video with me today, because it was a hard one for me to do. I'm not a skilled editor, so putting together all these, hundreds of little teeny tiny shots and whatnot took a long time for me to do. So thank you for watching. Please consider liking and consider subscribing. I'd love to make more videos like this in the future, but just know that is going to take time. And in the meantime, if you are, for some reason, wanting to see more of this, I do have so far over 30 videos in my Starfield Gaming with a Friend series, The Ballad of Wyatt Holiday. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.